Good morning, everyone. Part 2 of Maxime Bernier's interview with Dave Rubin is up, and the link is in the description if you're interested in watching. I haven't checked it out yet, but I'm excited to, and well, I'll tell you what I think about it after I watch it. Sorry, I haven't got there yet. So today's video, I'm going to look at a lot of the missteps that the Trudeau government has made, and even over the last couple of days, some things have come to the surface that are just awful missteps. Delorio resigning at the start of the House, the other at the beginning of the week. And I mean, all of this stuff, they have to wear this election season, right? They have to wear their failures. And I hope the people see it. I hope the people understand what's going on. So National Post is reporting, quote, Trudeau is discovering the limits of symbolism. Western alienization is at a level not seen since the 1970s. Trudeau demonstrates no greater grasp of the problem than his father did. Pierre Trudeau shrugged it off with typical disinterest. His son seems bewildered by the outburst of anger. Bewildered is a good word for Trudeau. Okay, back to the article. In the midst of the mess brought on by John McCallum's evident inability to pass up an interview, Conservative leader Andrew Scheer made a remark that could stand as a key theme in this year's election. This is, I think, part of the bigger problem, he observed, and that is Justin Trudeau's approach to diplomacy, where he thought he could conduct image over substance foreign affairs, and now Canadians are paying for his mistakes. Image over substance has come to define the Trudeau Liberals' approach to government. It contributed substantially to their 2015 victory when voters keen on a change after 9 years of dour conservatism chose, quote, sunny ways after the unsmiling rigor of Stephen Harper. It turned him into a global celebrity when a wave of selfies and carefully staged photo ops led to an outpouring of swooning headlines. It didn't hurt that the Liberals armed themselves with a deep bag of expensive promises, the impracticality of which got overwhelmed in the excitement. It took time for the glow to fade, but by the third year of the Trudeau mandate has not been kind to the Prime Minister or his record, and much of it derives from the question of depth and whether Canada's Prime Minister has enough of it to protect Canada's interests. Scheer expanded on his initial remarks Monday when the House of Commons resumed sitting after a long Christmas break. Quote, after clowning around in India and inviting a convicted terrorist along with him, he then was forced to take concession after concession from Donald Trump. He even angered our partners in Japan and Australia. And now we have the debacle with China. Why did the Prime Minister show such weakness and wait so long to fire his ambassador? After initially refusing to give a reason for McCallum's firing, Foreign Affairs Minister Chrystia Freeland, acknowledging that McCallum is a personal friend, indicated that it resulted from his going spectacularly off script in discussing the arrest of Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou and the ensuing confrontation with China. The chief job of an ambassador is to accurately transmit the government's position, she said. Instead, McCallum fed China's contention that the situation is wrapped in politics. That is what made it untenable for Ambassador McCallum to remain in his role, Freeland said. Scheer may have overreached in accusing Trudeau of mucking up NAFTA. Ottawa, like the rest of the world, is just trying to get through the Trump years with as little damage as possible, and Scheer's Tories were noticeably mute on how they'd have handled the situation. But the Prime Minister's much ridiculed sachet through India, his trade troubles with Asia, and the debacle in China are gaping and self-inflicted wounds the Liberals desperately hope can be bandaged over before votes are cast in October. I want to point this out. At this point, they're saying Scheer overreaching in accusing Trudeau of mucking up NAFTA. No, the negotiation for NAFTA falls, and the failures around that fall directly at the Prime Minister's feet for leaving Chrystia Freeland in that position. And the National Post trying to sanitize this and getting on board with the Trump hate and the Trump derangement syndrome stuff is garbage. I do not support Scheer's stance on trade with Trump. He misrepresents Trump. It's frustrating to watch. So I don't like this National Post part here because it's misrepresenting the truth. So there's a lot more to that story than being packed into there. And it's an interesting line of attack on Scheer. Like, it's okay to keep poking our biggest trade partner in the eye, and if Scheer wants to continue that, the National Post is right behind him. It's not Trudeau's fault that the NAFTA trade deal was messed up. It's definitely Trump's fault. No, National Post, it is Trudeau's fault, and there's ample evidence to support that. Okay, back to the article. Scheer could easily expand his criticism to include the Prime Minister's idealistic approach to domestic matters. The crisis in Alberta relates directly to Trudeau's convictions that environmentalists could be won over to construction of a much-needed oil pipeline in exchange for a national carbon tax plan. In pandering to social license and environmental activism, he grossly misunderstood the level of zealotry that drives the anti-resource industry and the absence of compromise in its DNA. As a result, Alberta's NDP Premier Rachel Notley has been turned into an oil industry champion and staunch pipeline advocate, pulling her province out of Ottawa's climate change plan, while other premiers from Ontario Ontario West accused the Liberals of dividing East and West into opposing camps, much as Trudeau's father, Pierre, did in the 1970s. It's no exaggeration to say that Western alienization is at a level not seen since those years, or that this Trudeau demonstrates no greater grasp of the problem that his father did. Pierre Trudeau shrugged it off with typical disinterest. His son seems bewildered by the outburst of anger. Yes, and I think that's an excellent primer. Another good example of Trudeau's ministers going off message and just being out and out. I mean, there are many examples. Trudeau himself called a Quebec grandmother racist for asking about the cost of illegal immigrants. We want $146 million back, please, Mr. Trudeau. That racism is not tolerated here. And just recently, the immigration minister, Ahmed Hassan, said the Tories have no plan, and then right away followed it up with, you know what their plan is? Their plan is to put an RCMP or immigration officer every 100 meters. We don't have the resources for that crazy plan. That's what he said. I should get the video, but I'm not going to get the video because the Liberals are trying to accuse the Conservatives of being divisive. And Scheer brings that up right here. And this is a tweet by Andrew Scheer. He says, Justin Trudeau's Liberals have done more name-calling and fear-mongering than anyone. Trudeau should stop accusing others of it until he looks in the mirror. Yes. And as I said, Trudeau has been slinging mud to citizens, calling them racist, calling Quebec grandmothers racist for asking monetary questions, and then our immigration minister saying that the Conservatives they don't have a plan and they're going to militarize the border too. Here it is.
Of using fear-mongering. What do you say to that?
So it's his minister. Justin Trudeau is always accusing others of what his government and what his officials do themselves. His minister brought up ridiculous accusations about militarizing the border. His ministers launched unbelievably personally insulting attacks on Canadians and on people who have legitimate questions. It's Justin Trudeau that is playing the politics of fear and division on this file by not taking responsibility for his failures.
And yeah, I mean, that's a cogent argument against Mr. Trudeau because his ministers and himself are guilty of the dirtiest of dirty tricks in this election year so far, in my opinion. Natasha Fata, sorry if I've got your name wrong, madam, is tweeting, Liberals refuse to reveal details of six-figure fundraiser for MP with millions in gambling debts. This is happening in Canada, and if I wasn't covering this stuff, I almost wouldn't believe it. There's so many spy movie-esque things between Raj Grewal and his gambling and questioning about money laundering, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, that's one little movie. The sale of Vancouver and British Columbia to Chinese triads, that's another spy movie. The Huawei theft of T-Mobile through Canada, and Canada's and we're stuck between China and the United States, both of whom we rely on. Like if you take away China and the United States, we are kind of in a lot of trouble, right? So we're gearing up to make everybody angry. Ha, yay, fun. So the spy movies abound in Canadian politics these past couple of years. And everybody seems like, oh, Canadian politics, it's so yawny. No, it's really interesting. There's a lot of stuff happening. So here's the National Post again saying Liberals refuse to reveal details of six-figure fundraiser for MP with millions in gambling debts. Grewal said the event for Brampton East Liberal Riding Association in last April attracted 1,200 people. That's interesting, isn't it? 1,200 people to a Liberal event with no Justin Trudeau, no banner ministers, just Raj Grewal. Huh. The Liberal Party Canada is refusing to release details of a fundraiser held by MP Raj Grewal that amassed hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time when Grewal was struggling with millions in gambling debts. With ticket prices at $500 per person, Grewal said the events for Brampton East Liberal Riding Association last April attracted 1,200 people, an unusually large crowd for a local fundraiser that featured no party luminaries. The potential take of up to $600,000, less costs and non-paying guests, would far exceed the riding spending limit of $100,000 for a minimum 37-day campaign. By contrast, most of the fundraisers included on a Liberal transparency website list fewer than 100 guests, even when Prime Minister Justin Trudeau or a senior cabinet minister spoke to the audience. I scroll down a little bit. Quote, for a government that said it would be transparent by default, this is proving that not to be true, said New Democrat MP Nathan Cullen. I scroll down again. It remains unclear, however, exactly how much the April event generated, who donated, or how the money is being used. The link is in the description if you want to read more into that. But I thought, man, that's wild. Like we have gambling debts, and you know, Raj Grewal is saying that he's repaid all of the debts and everything's above board, very transparent. You can track it, no problems. I haven't looked into that, but I'm sure I will get to it at some point. But the federal Liberals seem intent on breaking their own rules set out in 2015. Here's an article from September 2018. It says federal Liberals violated own fundraising rules. So this is different than the Raj Grewal story. I think that stands on its own as a flagrant violation of something. Campaign rules, etc. But we don't know how much or who attended. That is a violation of Bill C-50. So, but getting back to this article, here we go. The government Liberals have allowed lobbyists to attend party fundraisers featuring cabinet ministers, at times violating restrictions the party announced 2 years ago, according to Globe and Mail analysis. The review of Liberal fundraisers organized since the new rules took effect in early 2017 found nearly half had registered lobbyists in attendance. The research also found that more than 200 instances of registered lobbyists at Liberal fundraisers, more than 3/4 of them were registered at a time to lobby the cabinet minister speaking at the event. The results of the review show that while the Liberal Party in late 2016 unveiled broad restrictions on the attendance of lobbyists at party fundraisers, the reality is that the party is applying a ban narrowly, and that even those narrow restrictions have been violated. The biggest exception is the party's decision not to apply its restrictions on attendees by lobbyists if the fundraiser is a Laurier Club donor appreciation event. So, and it's explained in the next paragraph, essentially the Liberal Party is banning lobbyists from attending fundraisers featuring the target of their lobbying when the entry fee is relatively low, such as a $200 a plate dinner, while allowing them to regularly attend Laurier Club events if they donate the $1,500 a year required to enter the exclusive top donors, the exclusive club of top donors. So they're banning the $200 fundraisers, but if they pay $1,500, no problem. Full access. Here you go. Welcome, Laurier member, right? So what does that do? Effectively makes all of the reporters have to give $1,500 per fundraiser for access, but it's still the same thing, and in violation of their own rules. Link is in the description if you want to check it out. Maybe have a look at Maxime Bernier's party as well, the People's Party of Canada, peoplespartyofcanada.ca. You might want him to be the next prime minister. I certainly don't want Justin Trudeau to be the next prime minister. That's for sure. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful day.